and then we both like start that could be really cool. That seems more like AR than VR, but still something I think would be really good.
I think it's definitely something that I think is possible. It's just a matter of finding the right piece of head equipment to do it. But I mean, like that would be like, I think you'd cure obesity in this country in a second with that. That's just me.
That's a good point.
Hey guys, and thank you so much for tuning in to the Console Xplosion podcast. I'm your host, The Philosopher, and today we talked about two very specific topics: VR tech and Marvel. With VR tech, we share some of our dream ideas and the direction that we think VR tech can go in. We talk about medical, educational, and even how we might have found the cure for obesity. We even touched on the topic of mobile VR versus home VR. With VR tech being so accessible to our smartphones now, it's very easy to believe that mobile VR gaming can be a thing. And then with Marvel, we talked about one of my favorite Marvel characters right now, Black Panther. He has a movie coming out, and he's also going to be in Captain America: The Civil War. We talk about him, what side we think he's going to be on, and just how we can't wait for the movie to come out. We even get a brief history lesson from our own historic nerd. So again, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy the show. Thanks, guys, for joining. I'm the Philosopher, and welcome to the Console Xplosion podcast. We are doing new things, trying to do different things every day. We're doing our podcast live now. We're doing it every Wednesday around 9 o'clock, so you guys can join us and share your thoughts as we go through the podcast. And then we'll upload it onto YouTube a week later on a Friday. And then you guys can check out the edited version, share your comments, and share it online, all that good stuff. So, yeah, thanks for joining. Today we're talking about first VR tech, and then we're going to be talking about the adventure, something I'm very excited about. But first, our co-host, welcome, Mr. Nick, a.k.a. The Weiler.
Hey, this is Nick, a.k.a. The Weiler from DOG, Deadly Operative Grunts.
Welcome back, sir.
Yes.
And then we have Ian, a.k.a. The Historic Nerd.
Good to be back as always.
Thank you. I didn't notice until after, but like 2 episodes ago, I wound up calling you The Historical Nerd. Like, it's nothing major, but I was like, I felt like a dumb after that.
Same thing. My Twitter's actually Historical Nerd, so some bastard got it just a minute before I did.
You should have put The Real Historic Nerd.
The Real Historic Nerd.
Okay, but yeah, Nick has been excited about VR tech. I know a little bit about it. I've tried a few different ones. Haven't tried the Oculus yet, but Nick, what's the first thing that you want to talk about with VR gear here?
First off, for all you guys getting to know me and everything, I am a huge Sony fan. So one of the main things I'm worried. One of the things I'm excited about is getting my hands on a PlayStation VR. And now that the Oculus has been announced at such a high price, and you also have to have a monster of a PC even to, handle it, I'm really excited to see, well, what's PlayStation going to do? E3's coming up in June, so hopefully we'll get a price, but apparently it's supposed to be out. I don't know if it's like right before E3 or maybe they'll announce it at E3, and oh, by the way, you can buy it next Tuesday or something like that. So, I mean, huge Sony fan, so it's like that's what I'm looking forward to. And the fact that you don't need this big monster PC, basically you just plug it in and you're ready to play. I'm really excited for that. I think eventually I will go to either the Oculus or some of the other ones, just kind of to try out the competition. But for me right now, I'm really excited about PlayStation. Guerrilla Games is coming out with it's called Rigs, which is like you're in this big like Gundam basically, and just but you can use the VR, so you're looking around, and that's the only real big one I think that like actually looks like a real game rather than a bunch of tech demos. So I mean, I think if they play it right, this E3 for Sony is going to be really trying to sell the VR. I mean, although it's a pretty easy sell. I mean, just imagining yourself just completely immersed inside the world that you're playing in, and I mean, that's the most exciting thing about this. You know, you don't have to worry about, you know, someone going in front of the TV, and you know, you always have to do that thing where you're like, hey, stop it! No, I'm vacuuming. Shut up. You know, you just here's your screen. So, I think, especially with the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 as an example, I really think that, you know, Sony's going to just like, yo, ours is only 400. Drop the mic. So, I don't know, but I'm excited. I mean, I just want to see more.
You know, historically, that's what they did to Sega when they announced the PlayStation 1 in comparison to the Saturn.
Right?
Just that. Let's drop the mic. But, I don't know. For me, honestly, what's kind of neat about that is if you look at like the HTC Vive, which is in partnership with Valve, it has a lot of really good potential as far as like what it's capable of doing. And what kind of sets it apart from the Oculus is it actually has like spatial sensors as well. Because one of the nice things about like the Oculus Rift came to the game early, so it's using a different set of technology, where the stuff that's coming in later has been incorporating smartphones because they have really good LED screens, which we didn't have like 10, 15 years ago, and that's why VR didn't really take off then. But so the benefit of the Vive is actually it can bring in spatial dimensions to gameplay, and some of the play tech demos for that are actually pretty awesome in the sense that they're also incorporating controllers and stuff like that for some of the games they have for it. So for me, I'm more excited for the HTC Vive than any of the other options right now. Just because of what I've seen for it and the fact that you can actually use it within a space and have that be incorporated in moving around within that kind of game environment. So that'd be really neat to see where that one goes.
Yeah, see, and the PlayStation VR is basically using like the PlayStation Eye, so it can do the same thing. You can set up like basically a square in your living room, and so it has kind of like what the Move had and what your PlayStation 4 controller has. So it has like the little place for the light. So it's going to sense everything. It's going to sense how close you are to the TV, how far away you are from the TV. If you want to like swing it this way or that way, you know, it has the light to pick it up and track everything that you're going to be doing. So I mean, kind of similar to what you're saying.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because I mean, one of the things that needs to happen is someone needs to make a game that actually uses these features correctly and not just gimmicky wise.
Right.
Like Lair, for example, was like a really good-looking game that was just literally made you want to like beat the next person closest to you because of how horrible it was to play. And they're trying to incorporate the wonderful motion controls from the PlayStation 3. But I mean, it's really just whether or not this technology actually works out is based entirely on the games that are used to optimize it. So we'll see how that goes.
And you guys actually raise a point, or I guess sparked a question in me, because I'm looking forward to. I've tested out the Morpheus. I've tested out the or Project Morpheus, the VR Gear, the Samsung Gear VR, and I'm actually really excited for the Gear VR, mainly because of the accessibility. You know, you just plug it into your phone. You get a little headset. It's affordable. So it's $99, and I basically have a headset, and I can get a controller. Granted, the technology is still very early on, but I guess phone games and phone apps and stuff like that are getting close, if not rivaling, a lot of the mobile devices, mobile gaming devices like a Nintendo DS or 3DS or something like that. They even have 3D technology at this point for some of the games, AR and whatnot. So for me, even though I don't really like handhelds, I don't really own any handhelds, or I don't play the ones that I own, I actually look really forward to the VR Gear as opposed to the Morpheus or the Oculus. I do like the Morpheus, and I think it's a really cool concept. I think that would be more of a home gaming console, so to speak, rather than the Gear, which I can do anywhere. I went to my friend plays in the band, and so he was in his tour bus, and I was hanging out with him, and I got the chance to test out the Gear in his his bus without anything else but a controller and the headset, and we could just do it anywhere, and it was very cool, very immersive. Granted, it was very gimmicky. There weren't super in-depth games, but it gave me a taste of what VR technology could be if we kept going in that direction with mobile devices, and it was very cool. It was very exciting to see where they could go with this, with just the phone and just the controller and the headset, which is $100, or I think there's like a cheaper one for like $79.99 that I saw on eBay. So I think I guess my question is, do you see that if VR gaming does take off, do you think there will be like a mobile, like you have your PS Vita and your 3DS, and then you also have your console base where it's a little higher end gaming, like maybe your Oculus or like your Valve one or the Morpheus, where it kind of is also tethered to a console, a home console?
See, the way I could see it would be, because you have stuff like Google Cardboard and stuff like that out there that's tied pretty much using smartphones and lenses, I can see that being a more popular thing to do. But as far as people actually sitting around in public wearing VR headsets, I don't necessarily think that one's going to pan out too well, because, I mean, the first thing that's going to happen, you're pop on your VR headset and you're probably going to get robbed. So, I mean, you have definite issues there with that. But I think I can definitely see like a mobile aspect of the VR for smartphones in some regards. Especially, I don't know, I could also see, like, this might sound weird, but like educational benefits of where classrooms pick these up and you incorporate smartphones into your curriculum, which for demonstrating and presenting things. I can definitely see an expanded world of potential for these. But I can definitely see the more hardcore gamers having their VR headset linked more to a traditional console or their PC. So I can see that being definitely the more hardcore route, at least for the really... Because there's definitely eventually you're probably going to have AAA titles for these things. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that was actually something I kind of wanted to get into in the future as well, like not just gaming, but this technology could branch off into other things. And kind of a tangent, kind of not, but I mean, a lot of technology is coming out, and I'm a big supporter, I guess, of driverless cars. And to kind of go back to your, doing it in public, you won't necessarily have to, because if you get a driverless car, you're going to have a lot more free time. So it's a hypothetical, but it would give the opportunity for a lot of people to use their VR gear in private to some extent, especially if you have some tinted windows. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you with what you were saying about looking pretty ridiculous in public. I do feel more comfortable not doing it around other people. But I mean, if you're in a park or just hanging out or something like that with people that you're safe with, I wouldn't feel as ridiculous. I mean, the technology's catching on, so there's going to be a middle ground where, yeah, you still might get robbed. That's always going to happen. But like the people who might feel ridiculous, it's going to be the thing. So it won't be as like fashionably nerdy or weird or anything like that. Especially if technology does branch off into other sorts of things outside of gaming.
Yeah. See, like, I don't know. The thing I would love would be something they had discussed about like the Google glasses, as opposed to, I would call it the Google goggles, but that's just me. But something they had discussed with that was actually having the lens and a camera incorporate the environment into the games. So something I would love to see with like the headset like mobile devices with the lenses would be utilizing the camera on board with the phone and actually incorporating the external environment into gaming, perhaps. Because something like this is a tangent completely off of reality, of course, but something I would love to see would be an app that incorporates your camera, the Google lenses, and your phone to where you can play like Mario Kart while you're jogging. See, that would be that's like a $1 billion idea right there. I would pay no end of money to have.
Oh, I like that idea. I really like that idea. Like, sleep the course, especially like here in Boise, we have the Greenbelt, so set it up like that's my track, and then you pick up power-ups, and make a game out of it, especially like if I go for like a jog with my wife or whatever, and we both have that app, and then we both like start jog. Yeah, could be something really cool. That seems more like AR than VR, but still something I think would be really good.
I think it's definitely something that I think is possible. It's just a matter of finding the right piece of head equipment to do it. But I mean, like that would be like, I think you'd cure obesity in this country in a second with that. That's just me.
That's a good point. I like what you said about the classroom, because like that's definitely something like, picture you're doing a history lesson on World War II, everybody puts on their VR, and now they're in Europe they're in the bombed out sections and they get to actually feel like they're there and feel like, they're actually learning something. I mean, people like me, for instance, I'm a very visual learner. It's like I could read a book 1,000 times, but I'm a lot better at seeing it or being explained it or something like that. So something like that in the school would have been like a godsend for me. And I mean, especially in today's society, if we use technology in a good way, it can be awesome. Just like you use your smartphone not for everything, but you use it to find your way around. That's what it's for, and it helps you.
Yeah, there's a lot of potential there, and I brought up the classroom idea because, ironically, within the gaming industry, there have been attempts to bring these consoles into the classroom, like the Philips CDI, for example. And towards the middle of its life, became this media display item for classrooms. And the nice thing about like how cheap smartphones and things are becoming now, and the fact that their screens have basically 1080p resolution on even like almost the really cheap models now, it's going to be really easy to incorporate these into that type of like environment. And so honestly, I can't wait to see that actually like happen. Because I mean, like honestly, it's almost out of a story of like from Isaac Asimov, where kids are putting on VR goggles to experience the past or lessons in certain ways for presentations. So like I would absolutely love to see that happen. And I think there's a good chance. I don't know if it's going to catch on right away, but this is just a fantasy of mine, and we're talking about VR, so I might as well share these thoughts.
Oh yeah, I definitely kind of want to stick in the realm of hypotheticals right now, because I mean this does really excite me. This is one of the forms of technology, along with driverless cars, that I think are definitely the future. To touch on the school topics, I think that's amazing. And then you take something like when we talked about Assassin's Creed before, where they basically did a reconstruction of this whole entire country, or this area, this territory, and it's so realistic that museums use it, so to speak. Imagine if you do that and you make it fun, but you kind of take out the violence in it, but you're able to walk around in these environments almost like it's actually happening to you. That's immersive. That's great. Everyone's talking the native language, but you have these subtitles, all these things that you can do. You can actually walk into the buildings. You have this. It's a middle ground between interactive, game or just a learning tool. The lines might blur, but does it really matter? You're experiencing these things like almost as if they're actually happening. Almost as if you are in the Atomus, experiencing these things as if you're one of the natives or whatever. There's a lot of potential if the people will make it. This technology is, I think, there's so much you can do to it. And to kind of go to something else I wanted to talk about was, like for me, I think the medical could definitely benefit from this as well. All these new different types of machines that we have, being able to have like the goggles on and be inside and like not have any external distractions, nobody that you can see, just the camera, just as like. But you actually control when you're looking around and everything. There's a lot of potential for VR outside of gaming and inside of gaming, and it's a great form of technology. I think that there is a lot of potential. The technology has finally caught up with the idea. This idea is not anything new. It's just the technology has finally been created to where it can support the idea. So there's so much to it. I am excited to see it in schoolrooms. I think it can do a lot of good. I don't know if you guys can think of any other good examples, but Assassin's Creed is like the first thing that comes to mind. Not so much the violence part of it, but basically what I talked about.
Yeah, recreating, what was it, France in 1860 something? I can't remember.
Italy.
Yeah, exactly. But something like that, where it's like you're taking a tour of the Luge, but you don't have to get a passport. You don't have to, get all the way over there.
Well, actually, on sorry to interrupt you. On Google Google Cardboard right now, there's actually an application that is the Palace of Versailles. Ooh. And you can go through it and actually tour it on Google goggles, or Google Cardboard.
We'll have to talk about this later. I have the app downloaded. I just need to order the box, which I think is like $7 for 3 boxes, I believe, and it comes like in 3 different sizes. So, yeah, I'm actually excited for that. That's gonna be my first thing, and then I'm gonna upgrade to the Samsung Gear, because there's some pretty cool stuff out there already. Do either of you guys have a phone that supports it?
Well, YouTube in general supports it, so all you would need is like you said, the cardboard or whatever. So like, I have the G4, and I know mine supports it because like I always have the option for cardboard pretty much anytime I watch a video.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I mean, yeah, as far as like mobile, kind of going back a couple of points. As far as mobile, I mean, as long as we find a good way of using it, I think, like you said, oh my God, so many different possibilities. I mean, they're endless. And I mean, what I do like about VR is it's its own thing. It's not like the silly Wiimotes, that you have to hold and you do all the weird movements or whatever. It's its own like system pretty much, because playing a video game one way back in like GameCube era versus the way you had to play it with the Wii, it was completely different, and that's one of the reasons that the Wii took off so much, is that you weren't just playing a game, you were starting to kind of feel like you were in the game. And so now VR is taking it that step further. So now it's not just motion with your hands and you're going, now you're actually, it's right here, you're looking around, it tracks every movement you make. It's the next step in, complete immersion, and just the endless possibilities. I mean, I like your point about hospitals using it. That makes perfect sense. Gosh, yeah, I don't even know. We could probably go on all night talking about it. We'd have to make it an 8-hour podcast.
You can talk about it for a while, but I mean, one of the main things also you have to realize though is like the Oculus Rift. What its price tag is? What, $599?
Yeah.
See, there's an issue there. I mean, there's a primary issue with VR, I think initially because of the high cost of development for it, is going to be a really limited market initially. Like the commercial market, the consumer market, it's going to take a little bit longer for a lot of gamers to get into it. Because personally, I would much rather buy a 60-inch TV for $599 than I would a VR system. So I mean, there's going to be a definite interest, like a cross interest, is where people have to like when they're going to jump into this technology. So they're going to have to develop it, and they're going to lose money on it for a while until they can actually make it a really competitive, viable option to more traditional monitors and screens.
Right.
So it's definitely it's going to add a whole extra level of immersion, but as to whether or not people can afford it, I think is going to be one of the main things that makes or breaks VR.
Yeah, and I mean, with so many different options, I wonder how well Oculus will do, because I mean that price tag is really high, which is one of the reasons that I am going to get the Samsung VR. I mean, granted, it is like an entry-level VR thing, but I mean, it's the best, most approachable form to get right now, I think. There's not too much to set up. You don't really need anything extra other than the phone that you already have. So I am glad that I'm glad the Oculus exists, because after the Oculus came out, you saw a boom of all these other people. You have the Morpheus, you have the one that you talked about, you have the Samsung VR, and I'm sure there's other ones in the works as well. I mean, you have the cardboard one. This technology kind of, I don't know if it was Oculus that pioneered it or if they just got to marketing it first.
Well, Oculus were the people who had the idea, well, not necessarily first, but they were the ones who definitely pushed the hardest. Because,
right,
I mean,
they had
like,
the Kickstarter.
they had the Kickstarter, but ultimately, if you think about it, VR was this really big idea we had in the 90s. And then, like, towards 1997, we all forgot about it. Like, literally, no one thought about VR. And that wasn't until, within the last 5 years that people realized that screens have gotten to a resolution where VR is actually possible, and it won't give you a terrible headache. So I mean, that was the nice benefit and jump in technology we had in the last 5 years, that it actually made this technology more viable and actually more immersive. So that's the nice thing about it. So it's definitely a huge jumps forward in technology, and Oculus Rift has the benefit of being the first ones on board for it. Mm-hmm. At least they have the name recognition right now. Because I think there's a lot of people that know about it, and I think because Facebook owns a commanding share of Oculus, so they're they definitely have an interest in making sure this technology works. But the question is, how long are they willing to lose money on it to make it more commercialized for a lot of people? It's one of those things where, like, when technology first comes out, no matter what, you lose money on it initially because of the R&D cost.
Mm-hmm.
But it's whether or not they can capitalize on it is what makes the difference. But I think Oculus Rift, I think they have the benefit of having some really wealthy backers behind it, so I think they're going to be a very viable brand in this industry. But they got to strike at the right time and the right way to make people really interested in it. Because, I mean, there's a lot of gamers that are interested in it, but I can't think of, like, a lot like Joe Schmo off the street who's interested in it. So, I mean, they got to play their cards really well. That's my only thought.
Porn.
Oh, yeah, well, I mean, like, yeah, porn has decided a lot of industries. But the question is, are you going to have actors that have, like, 3D cameras mounted to their heads while they're doing it? So, I mean, there's definite drawbacks to producing pornography in that method.
Oh, they already do.
So,
I'm glad you're here to inform us.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, literally, like, one of the main reasons why HD DVD lost was because porn didn't back them as fully as they thought it would.
That's true.
Then, yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of what ifs here, and I honestly I can't tell you what's going to go the right way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really hoping for the HTC Vive, but then again, I'm kind of an HTC fanboy considering I've loved all their smartphones.
Yeah, I have
for
loved the HTC phones as well. This is my first non-HTC phone, and it kind of was a mishap. Lost my other phone, so this is my only replacement phone. Not that I'm complaining. This is it's a Galaxy SX or S6, so good phone, and also couples with the VR, so it's not a bad thing at all. I didn't know they had an HTC one out or in the makings.
Well, the HTC Vive one is it's not going to pair with smartphones or anything like that. It's actually going to pair with your PC because they're in partnership with Valve while developing this.
Mm-hmm.
So it may end up actually like linking to a Steam box. So we'll see what happens in that regard.
Okay.
Something I want to see. I want to see, like, I guess YouTube did a thing where them and Mini Cooper produced a 360 movie. So I would love to see someone attempt to make a 360 movie in the future, but the issue with that
That's
is
hard to do.
It'd be really hard to do, and to make it entertaining, because, I mean, like, you'd have to completely monitor a set in 360 degrees and have the story work if you're not directly looking at the people you want to follow. So, I mean, you could do a crap ton of background stuff and have, like, a really deep, enthralling story, but as to whether or not a director could pull it off without, like, blowing his brains out would be another story altogether.
Right.
Yeah, they did a trailer for the next Paranormal Activity. I believe it's Paranormal Activity 64. And, yeah, they did a 360. I was waiting for a laugh. But, yeah, they did a 360 trailer for it. So I don't know if that's what they're planning on doing the movie as, but they did the trailer that way, so I don't know.
Well, I mean, like, because Paranormal Activity, their whole thing is they make the movies as cheaply as possible, and then they throw them in theaters and make like $20 million on top. I mean, that's their whole like game plan. But I mean, like, to make a 3D movie in a theater, I don't necessarily know how that would work. But,
I actually like the Paranormal Activity movies, but
I haven't watched them. I just know their entire model is based on low production cost and then just getting it out there. And now that Paranormal Activity has that name recognition, they can make money because the movie is produced so cheaply. So they just have to make it a half-decent film that people will go see. So that's literally, like, that's all they have to do is make a movie that doesn't break the bank.
right. I can see them doing a 3D movie with a headset, but I can't see them doing that.
Well, yeah, it's one of those things where, like, literally, you couldn't do a 360 movie in a conventional theater release environment.
No.
Just with the way the technology is currently. I mean, like, you could maybe do some kind of gimmicky movie released on smartphones or on YouTube with 360, but it'd be interesting to see how that pans out.
Yeah, that's a risk. Paranormal Activity is a good movie to do it on since they're so low budget anyway. So at this point, they already have a following. So that might not be a bad idea, just not a theater release. Maybe like a mobile, Google Play or iTunes or something like that, or YouTube. a mini series or something like that, some sort of experiment. But that's a good point though, like because I never really thought about movies as well as VR. Like, is that something that they're working on? Do you guys know if they're doing movies as well as gaming?
I know people are like. Here's the thing: people are always trying to change up how the next movie's made. I mean, currently, right now, you have a movie called Hardcore that has been in production for the last, like, 5 years. And it's a completely first-person film. So the entire gimmick behind it is that your entire perception of the film is through the eyes of the main character. So they're experimenting with how to make a film work with that. But as far as making a 360 film work, here's a more recent example. The film Revenant. The way that film was done, it was done with steady cams in the center of where all the actors are. So you have this kind of setup where the camera is in the middle of the action. So you have potential to where you could shoot a full 360 film depending on the skill of the director. Because ultimately in a 360 film you'd have a lot of things you'd have to observe and control as a director and while making a film. Because as it sits currently, I mean, you only have to control a 90-degree angle of what you're looking at with filming. So you can control that shot really well. With a 360-degree, you'd have to control everything. So literally, you'd have to either put your entire production crew in green screen suits to hide them in post-effect, or you'd have to figure out a way to put them underneath the actors or something different. So there'd be a lot of effort and energy put into a film that would just be overall a gimmick, until that entire concept catches on and you have a greater distribution network for it. Because as it sits right now, the only way people could watch that movie and maybe appreciate it would be through YouTube that has a 360 streaming model. So I mean, there's potential there, and I think people are probably thinking about it. But as to whether or not they can actually do it, I think is an entirely different thing. And I went on that tangent for way longer than I thought I would. Sorry.
That's fine.
Yeah, VR movies are probably down the road, but it would be nice to see something, whether it is just like a short film. You know, at least then if they do like a quick little 30-minute movie, I think that would be it'd be a good way to maybe put it out on YouTube, see how it does, and then if there's enough interest and enough people who watched it, then they're like, okay, let's do a mass production of it. But really, if they didn't start with a short film, kind of like what Ian was saying, they would just go crazy with all this stuff they have to manage at once.
Yeah, and 3D or 360 movies aside, if they decided to do movies on the VR, they would have to shoot it differently, I would feel. I don't know if it even had a theatrical release, or if it did, it would be totally different from the VR version because the camera angles and whatnot would have to be a little bit different.
Yeah, I mean there'd be so many things that have to consider when making because ultimately with a 360 film, depending on the talent of the director, you could watch it probably 100 different times and have a completely different experience every time you watched it because of where you're looking while the filming's being done. And so it's one of those things where, like, I'm not going to say I'm a filmmaker, but like the crap I make, I play with environments and things like that, and I can't imagine trying to comprehend how to control 360 degrees of that, when most of the time I only control 180 degrees of it, and that's still kind of hard.
Right.
So it'd be a really rough thing to do.
I'm looking forward to it though. I hope someone does tackle that.
I would love it. And a completely stupid thought I had was one thing I would love to see come back with VR, if someone could truly make the ultimate what's what we're looking here for freaking Grapes of Wrath level FMV game, you know, like this full VR, full motion video game. That'd be amazing.
Grapes of Wrath?
Oh, sorry. I was trying to think of like a masterpiece, like a movie that defined a genre.
Okay, I got you.
Like Citizen Kane should have been the more appropriate phrasing. Sorry.
For some reason, I was thinking Citizen Kane when you said Grapes of Wrath. I don't know why.
Yeah, same period of time when the film came out. But that'd be just trippy to watch, like someone do a FMV game in freaking VR and have it just be amazing.
I'd watch it. Speaking of awesome movies.
Oh, hey, that's a transition right there.
Got it.
Got it.
Before we get into the big one, to kind of start off, one of the movies I'm really looking forward to, and they've been releasing more information on it, is the Black Panther. I love this character. I found out about it actually kind of late in my age with Marvel Ultimate Alliance 1, I believe. Or no, 2, actually, and it was about the Civil War. And ever since then, I started looking into Black Panther and was really excited about it. But you guys may not know that they already casted the actor for Black Panther, and that's the same person who played in, I believe, 42, the Jackie Robinson movie. He played in Get On Up, which is a James Brown movie. He played in other movies as well with the director. I'm trying to think of his name right now. The actor's name is Chadwick Boseman, or Boseman. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. But the same person who directed the new Creed movie and a few older movies as well is the director for this movie. So I'm actually really excited. I think I just recently watched Creed, so I love that movie, by the way. Very, very great movie. If you love the Rocky series, go watch it. It's not like Rocky 5, I can promise you that. Really good.
Oh, come on, Rocky 5 wasn't that bad. Come on. Come on.
You know, honestly, I didn't hate it because I understood what it was about, but compared to all of the other Rocky movies, it just wasn't.
Well, they tried to add a whole extra level of drama to Rocky because ultimately, after you beat a world superpower, where are you going to go with that story?
Right,
So,
you pass on the torch.
Oh yeah.
Rocky in space.
I think the only bad
ironically, sorry to interrupt you, Tavian. This is going to be a really dumb reference, but when they started writing the film Predator, it was actually going to be Rocky versus Space Alien. And then it became Predator, that masterpiece we all know today. But just putting that out there. But yeah, I thought Rocky Balboa was a fantastic film, and I still need to watch Creed, but it looks really good. I need to watch it.
You know what? Sorry, go ahead.
Go for it.
Well, I think the interesting thing is we're going to get essentially a standalone movie after getting Captain America: Civil War. That's going to be the weird thing. Is the movie going to end where the Civil War ended, or is it going to begin before the Civil War and then it ends with Iron Man recruiting him? So it'll be interesting to see that, because usually we all the other people who are in the Avengers, we pretty much have an origin story for. Thor, Iron Man, Hulk, Captain America. We have origin stories, and Ant-Man, good one. So we have origin stories for all these people, and so to have this one after the fact, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how they deal with it.
Yeah.
See, sorry to interrupt you, Tavian. Sorry, I keep interrupting.
Yeah, you don't get to talk.
You have great points you want to put out. But man, one of the things I followed the Black Panther for a long time, and it's Wakanda, right? Is the African country?
Wakanda. Mm-hmm.
Wakanda, yeah. There was a great, I don't even know how I found this, but there was a BET miniseries on Black Panther that was fantastic, and it was just so well freaking done. I was like, the Black Panther's actually a really good character when you watch that after you watch that miniseries, and that was good stuff.
Yeah, to touch on a few things. One, to go back to Creed real quick, that movie actually, I'm not ashamed to admit, made me teary-eyed at a few parts. That doesn't happen very often, so I was pleasantly surprised to have some feels bubbling up within me. Yes, the BET Black Panther miniseries was fantastic. It's kind of like a motion or animated comic sort of thing. It's not a full cartoon. So the first episode kind of caught me off guard, but the story and the voice acting and everything was just so fantastic that the animation didn't even really matter. And the art was still really well done. I'm glad I got a chance to see that. It was on Netflix for a while, and I guess they took it down.
That's where I saw it.
Yeah.
Netflix, BET,
Well, the interesting thing is, I would say.
Well, it was BET though. To add on, it was BET that I guess paid for the movie or produced it.
They produced it and created it.
Yeah.
Well, the unfortunate thing is, there aren't a whole lot of African American superheroes. So the interesting thing about the Black Panther is he's a really well done character too. Because
Luke Cage is getting his own one on Netflix.
On Netflix,
Yeah.
Ah, man, I really did not like Jessica Jones. I thought that show was really weak.
I haven't finished it yet. My
It
girlfriend
was a
was talking
slow
about it.
burn. It was a real slow burn.
My problem is, yeah, well, Kilgrave is such a damn good character, and I'm like, they need to put more of him in that.
Was that
But
the
the
doctor?
main attack, yeah, the what's his name? Yeah, the guy who played Doctor Who.
I
But,
should know his name, but I can't think of it right now.
Something
My girlfriend's gonna give me-
Tennant. Something Tennant.
Oh, Tennant, David Tennant. Duh.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
I'm like, I mean, there was some good stuff about that series, but I thought they could have done more or made it more compelling. But yeah, I enjoyed it, but I definitely like Daredevil a lot more.
Oh,
Yeah,
Daredevil.
off the heels of Daredevil, it would have been hard to follow it up, but I think Jessica Jones went for a lot more drama rather than this is an action series.
Well, I think the thing they were trying to push for apparently was they were using in the production of the film they were using the phrase noir a lot, like noir, which is
crime noir.
Yeah, crime noir. And I'm like,
Okay.
You use that phrase, but you're not doing noir. Just gonna put that out there with you. That's like noir is from the phrase of like using when filmmaking of using very dark frames with very like black edges, and they didn't really do that in Jessica Jones, but I mean I think it has potential. I think the second season will be a lot better, but
Right.
Yeah, agreed.
And then to go back to what you were saying, Nick, about like the storyline, from what I understand, they're not going to be doing any more origin stories. So Black Panther and Doctor Strange, I don't think they're going to do the origins. They might touch on it real quick, but
I think with Doctor Strange they are, because they're bringing Benedict Cumberbatch into the universe, and I think they have a big audience potential for that, so they're gonna.
Yeah.
But I think with the Black Panther, I think if they don't, I think they're missing a really good opportunity. I think that's just me.
I agree. His origins is really good because I don't want to give anything away just in case they do. But I'm hoping you guys know about Black Panther. You know, the Black Panther is separate from T'Challa, if that makes any sense. People who know what I mean know what I mean. The person.
I think I follow you. I watched that miniseries, but I'm like, I don't necessarily remember it because I thought the Black Panther was someone from Wakanda who competed to be the strongest, right? And when they won that event, they became the Black Panther, right?
Basically, the king of Wakanda is
there you go.
Black Panther. He gains the mantle of Black Panther, and traditionally, it was I think his name was T'Chunka, and then his son wound up getting it, T'Challa. I believe that's their names. I might be screwing it up. Don't hate me if you guys do know. Throw it in the comments in there below. But yeah, the mantle is passed down, and to add on to that, from what I understand, from what I've read and found in the videos, is that the Black Panther in the Avengers is going to be a younger Black Panther. So he's not going to be the older, wiser, more level-headed one. He's going to be a bit more impulsive, which led me to question a few things. I don't want to give away too much. I don't know how you guys feel about spoilers, but I've done a little bit of digging from like what they've announced, and he's hunting a particular person, and so his as I see it right now, I kind of want to get into the question of whose side is he on, because you see him standing next to Iron Man in the trailer, but it doesn't really mean anything.
See, my theory, I'm going to put this out there from just having watched Age of Ultron, is that odds are the Black Panther is going to be hunting the weapons guy who had all that vibranium. That's going to be my thought.
Yes,
but that's going to be my theory. But because of what made Wakanda so powerful was because they were the only country on Earth that had vibranium, right? At least in
they had a rich
the BET miniseries,
Yeah, that's what his suit is made out of, is vibranium.
Yeah, so I mean that'd be pretty. God, him having his own film would be really fun because I mean the BET miniseries one they did was it was so full of history and interaction with the older Marvel characters in the sense that like Captain America went there chasing after Nazis, and the Wakandans had already dealt with the Nazis, and then he had to fight Captain America, and it was just a great sequence.
I think he was the first non-mutant to like ever fuck up Captain America.
Well, yeah, you're covered in freaking vibranium. I don't think it's too hard.
That's true.
Yeah. So I mean, it had that potential, but it was just a really well done story, and the fact that like essentially because Wakanda, like the whole premise was that they were they were exponentially more advanced for their timeline or for their time period. So when people would try and invade them, they'd just be destroyed by Wakanda because Wakanda had probably 100 years more advancement on other countries around them, and especially even like the colonial era.
Yeah.
So that was the fun gimmick they had going for them.
I've got a good question for you, actually. So to kind of recap, basically the Wakandans, they're basically sitting on a gold mine of vibranium, which is like this really rare metal, and because of that, they become way more technologically advanced, but also kind of kept the structure of a tribe in some sense. So they have like the tribal background, but they have this technologically advanced civilization. My question is this: like, do you think we kind of talked on this before with fire and whatnot? Is that something that's actually very viable in real life? If you get, like, say this did happen in real life, if they came across like this really rare metal and they started to use it, do you think that would like help boost their intelligence to around the technology? If that makes any sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about ancient period civilizations, like for example the Roman Empire, what they discovered, what made them incredibly strong, was the fact they had access to concrete, which can cure underwater, so they built bridges and things like that and roads. And then also they used that concrete to create aqueducts, which allowed them to bring fresh water into their large city. So the Romans kept a tribe mentality well into, I think, 200, 180 BC, which, I mean, they had already conquered all of the Italian peninsula at this point. So yeah, it's very likely that if a tribal society got access to a technology that gave them an extreme edge, that they would stay in that tribal mentality well into later periods. I mean, the Romans had that mentality well into their, I would say almost well into the ADs, where Romans were Romans because they had that centralized identity that was completely dictated by their technology and culture, which with Wakanda, if they had that level of material complexity that gave them an edge over all of their enemies, considering most African tribes up until European encounter were using more stone than iron, with the exception of maybe the Zulus in the south, yeah, they would definitely have a more tribal mentality. But then also, tribal mentality is something that has stuck around in Africa. My dog apparently has an opinion about that as well. But tribal mentality is something that has stuck around in Africa well after colonial periods as well. So, I mean, the answer is yes. Yeah, tribal, yeah.
That's why I love having you on the show.
But I mean, like it's like I could even go into a little like an Aztec reference as well. Because, I mean, when they built their main capital city, which is now Mexico City, they built it on top of a lake, which they then built canals, things like that, almost a similar fashion to Venice. But they maintained their cultural identity as Aztec because of how the technological edge they had over their enemies. But yeah, so yes. Yes,
right.
That's the answer.
Thank you, sir, for that history lesson, Professor Ian.
Mm-hmm.
But to get back to the Avengers, God, Black Panther is the whole entire history is so fascinating. I didn't think I'd be able to talk about this for so long, but I mean, Black Panther is actually really cool, and he is one of the origin stories that I think would deserve to be told, because him and I mean, Benedict Cumberbatch, anything he does, it doesn't matter. It's going to be great. But Doctor Strange is awesome too. But the pretty much what we just talked about is very fascinating. It is a great story all on its own, outside of Marvel, the Avengers. But man, so great. But to get back onto the Avengers, and two questions I pose is, one, whose side do you think he's on, knowing everything we've talked about so far, and then you personally, you guys, what side are you on? And that includes, Ian and Nick, and then anyone in the comments, you guys can share what side you're on as well, and then I'll share my opinions afterwards, because I'm still thinking.
Still making your decision.
Yeah.
That's a hard one, because, I mean, obviously they're doing Civil War a little bit different from how they did it in the comics. So, I mean, we're kind of getting, instead of the Mutant Registration Act, we're getting the Sokovia Act. And so, even though it is relatively the same, basically they're regulating what superheroes can and can't do. It's hard to pick a side, because it's like, on the one hand, it's all like, should you have to register for a deadly weapon? Yeah. Or can you just go around? I think there's one act going around where you don't have to register for a concealment of a weapon. That's kind of weird, but I mean, let's not get into political stuff. But that's what makes the Civil War so interesting. Is that's what it is. It's very political, and I think choosing that aesthetic for the Civil War, not only for the comic book but for the movie now. Really kind of grounds it in reality, because before it's like aliens who think they're gods and portals and all this, weird stuff, but it's like now it's kind of grounded. It's like, okay, Hulk and Hulkbuster effed up this town, so now we need to make sure stuff's regulated. And like where Captain America is coming from and why he's kind of against it is because he grew up in grew up in like the Nazi time. So it's like he sees it as the government is trying to control what I'm doing, but he's a good person, and I don't know. I'd have to say Captain America, personally, not only just because it's his name in the title, but I mean, I think you can only regulate so much, and if you do too much, then you're just taking away people's rights rather than making them safe.
What about you, Ian?
Let's see here. This one I hadn't really thought too much about the question in the sense that it'd be intriguing to see where they go with it, because Captain America Civil War is based entirely off that thing where he runs into Bucky and he wants to back Bucky up because they have that whole childhood together. But I'm really excited about the film, but I don't necessarily know if they're going to go into that whole Mutant Registration Act thing. But then again, like Marvel's things are going into the metahuman thing, right, with the shows. But you have to come back to me. I hadn't thought about the question long enough. Sorry.
Like I said, the Anti-Mutant Registration Act is being replaced by the Sokovia Act, but that's the kind of thing you actually have to like do a freeze frame to see that, because it's literally like one frame and you'll miss it, because they show someone handing over a paper and it says the Sokovia Act, and from, like I said, the Hulk and Hulkbuster messed up Sokovia, and so now they're using that in replacement of the Mutant Registration Act. So it's like they still want people to register. It's just called something else. Because like you said, I think we said this last podcast too a little bit, because like Marvel's not even allowed to use mutants because Fox has that. So that's why they had to go with a completely different act, so to speak. But I mean, kind of touching on another thing you said is that they kind of, at least for the commercial, in my opinion, they focused maybe too much on the relationship between Steve Rogers and Bucky. I feel like they focused on that a little bit too much, and for somebody who maybe doesn't know the comic books, like, they might go, okay, he's starting a war because of his friend. And it's like, no, they're starting a war because the government's trying to tell them what they can and can't do, and they're being very oppressive and very secretive about it. Once again, there's another frame where if you blink, you'll miss it, but it actually shows the Falcon and Steve Rogers handing over their stuff. So it's like the government's taking their equipment. And so, I mean, I think that might be the tipping point for Captain America and his team.
Yeah, I think we'll probably see where they take this. 'Cause, I mean, I guess in essence, if they play the story out the way they want to, I guess you could say Steve Rogers theoretically saw the results of the Holocaust and people handing over their livelihood and rights to the government and things like that, and like absolute authority to the state. I mean, we'll see where they take that. But I don't know. Because I mean, considering like Captain America has been fully funded by the government in a lot of situations in the past Avengers films, I mean, we'll see how this kind of plays out. Other than, I guess, with Captain America Winter Soldier, where, like, S.H.I.E.L.D. implodes on itself because of Nazi infiltration. So we'll see what happens in that regard as far as where they take the story. But, I don't know, this film, I don't necessarily know how they're going to take it, because I can't recall any comic book storyline that I've seen that followed this line. with the except like the Civil War, yeah, it followed that Meta-Human Registration Act, which was a really intriguing thing, and Captain America stood against that pretty adamantly. But so I mean, I don't know. We'll see where this goes, because I really can't see where this story is going to pan out, other than it's just like the Avengers will separate and fight each other for a bit in this film, and then come back together in Avengers 3, where an even bigger adversary or one-off character comes to fight them. So I mean, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I know they're already working on the Age of not the Age of Ultron, but the Infinity Gauntlet.
War, Infinity War,
yeah. Infinity Wars.
I kind of wish that this wasn't just in one movie, because I feel like it's a good issue. But
I agree.
I think it shouldn't just be Captain America's movie. It should be like just the Civil War. But to kind of answer my own question, it's a hard question, but I would have to say I'd be on the side of anti-registration. There have been like so many different incarnations of this. I mean, you had the Mutant Registration Act. I mean, you have the Civil War that's going on now. You have I don't know if you guys have watched Heroes, but they're doing their own version of it now, where you have to register if you're an Evo, which is basically a mutant or whatever you want to call it. And it is like this. I don't want to say it's an invasion of privacy or anything like that, but just having to register just because of something that you're born with. That's like having, to me, in my mind, that's having for me to register just because of the color of my skin or because of my religion or something like that. Now, I understand that it is like somewhat dangerous, but you're also, in my opinion, you're in my mind, you're telling me that just because I'm born a certain way, I am not safe to other people, as if instead of trying to teach me how to use what I have and embrace it, you're telling me that what I have is dangerous. You're setting the wrong message for people who are growing up this way. I'm taking this outside of the Marvel universe and putting it into the real world situation. It helps me kind of understand which side I'd be on, and it's way more fun that way anyway. But I understand the benefits of doing this, but me personally, I would have to say that I would definitely be opposed to this. And I as much as I don't like Captain America as a character, as I've gotten older, I like him more because I've learned more about him. But I used to hate him because he was a Boy Scout. But I would have to be on that side. I'd have to be on anti-registration, because I don't think I should be told that I have to register for something just because I was born this way. So that's kind of my thoughts on that.
Well, yeah, kind of touching on what you're talking about. Like, it'd be like in the real world, having people register, like if they have Down syndrome or they are ADHD or some kind of developmental disability. I mean, I guess technically they already do, but making it so like it's a requirement and like there's certain regulations put towards somebody with mental problems. I mean,
and restrictions.
Yeah, right. It's like you can't go to this place. I mean, just because you're the way you are. So, I mean, yeah, it just kind of touches back on the fact that making it about this makes it feel real,
Yeah.
And I think that's definitely where they went right. It's not just, oh, Bucky, I'm here to help you. Oh, these guys want to kill you. Okay, that's it. No, it's about, it's about the fact that the government's try to take over and, punch the good guys down in the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely falls into that whole like civil rights category, things like that. I mean,
Exactly.
One thing the United States has a history of is the fact that we've actively participated in the concept of eugenics for probably the last 400 years. So I wouldn't be surprised if eventually we develop this generation of humans that ultimately can be weaponized. I mean, we've done things in the past, at least as a country, where we've taken things that like we've made a decision because we could weaponize it. Like, for example, thorium reactors versus plutonium reactors. The thorium reactor is a very basic element that melts down at room temperature, but we went with plutonium options because you can weaponize plutonium. So I mean, I can't say like it's an interesting filter put on how we perceive our past and the things we'll do. So I'm really curious about what they'll do in this film. But I haven't seen the stuff about the Wachovia Act, so I mean we'll see.
Good points. And then I guess our last question before we end off here, it's a good one, so we can kind of go on a tangent on this one, which is it's from Cody from Retro Showcase. Is he was basically asking us what we were looking forward to in this movie. I'm guessing. Yeah, what were we looking forward to in the film?
Ooh.
Yeah, so that that could go off in a big tangent, or it could just be like really short. But
Yeah, that's a really good question. What am I looking forward to the most? I don't know. Winter Soldier was just such a good movie, and man, that's a hard one. You know, I'd have to say that Civil War is my favorite saga. So just being able to see it in general, I think I'm just excited to see what they do with it. I'm excited to see maybe if there's some like last minute team switching and I mean the face-off between Winter Soldier, Iron Man, and Captain America looked really good. So I'm definitely interested to see who they're going to pair off. Like who's Scarlet Witch going to go against? You know, Hawkeye and Black Widow are on separate sides. So does that mean that now they're going to be fighting each other? I mean, it's definitely kind of interesting to maybe see that too. How two, best friends. Well, I guess not best friends, but they've been together. They fought with each other. Not even in the Avengers. Way before that, they talk about like going to Bolivia and all this backstory that you have between these two. But in the trailer, they're clearly on separate sides. So just the different pair-offs and the emotional attachment to each of those pair-offs, I think, will be a really good story, and I can't wait to see who they go up against.
What about you, Ian?
I just really want to see Captain America beat the crap out of Tony Stark. I would love to see that happen. So that's kind of what I'm excited for.
Simple and basic.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it. I don't know if I can pick between one. I'm looking forward to all the interaction, all the characters they're going to have in here, like Spider-Man. I want to see how they're going to do Spider-Man. I can't wait to see how they do Black Panther.
That's a good point. I didn't think of that.
I don't know if Doctor Strange is going to be anywhere in here, but like I'm sure there might be a few other people. Like I've heard Luke Cage and maybe Iron Fist may be in it, but I don't know. It might not ever be in it. That's just a rumor. But I'm just excited to see all the characters are going to be in it. And the main thing for me. And I don't know how serious or how laid back they're going to do because most of the Marvel movies kind of teeter on the more playful side, at least from what I've noticed. I hope they kind of get a little bit more serious about this because I think it's a very good issue to bring up in some sense. Like, I mean, I don't know if superpowers or anything like that or vigilantes will ever be a thing in our lifetime, but there are a lot of restrictions and things that are making people feel like they are losing their power in some sense, and so I think they could make basically make this into a more serious thing. And I'm kind of curious to see how they go about it and all the morality things because they are split in between two. And it's kind of a serious issue if you think about it. So I'm just really excited to see how they play this. I love things that make people think outside the box about how they live their lives and how life should be lived. So overall, action, what I just talked about, and then all the different cameos. My main big ones that I'm looking forward to. But I think that's a good last question because we're just about hitting time here. So if Ian, oh, what?
That wasn't you.
Unless you guys have any other things that you want to add on before we head out.
Yeah, I don't know. I for me, I'm really excited for Captain America: Civil War because I enjoyed the last film more so than I enjoyed Avengers 2. At least the last Captain America film. But I just seem more poignant and relevant as far as when looking at American politics and what it is we're doing. And my dog's found a squeaker. Sorry. But what it is we look at as far as a society. So I think Captain America is more poignant in that regard. So I'm kind of looking forward to what social lens they look at the next film in. That's me.
Okay. All right. Well, on that note, can you let the folks know where they can find you, Ian?
Yeah, you can find me at historicnerd.com, or you can talk to me directly at historicalnerd on Twitter.com, or you can talk to me on Facebook, Historic Nerd, the Facebook page, or you can find me on theconsoleexplosion.com
All
or
right.
YouTube, so you can find me there.
And then my awesome co-host, Nick, where can they find you?
All right. Well, you can always find me on Facebook and YouTube. They're both Deadly Operative Grunts. Just do a little search. Make sure to like me on Facebook and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and that'll actually get you into our monthly giveaway. This month's giveaway is actually going to be $50 because I'm celebrating. I actually Threat X3 Productions, which is the production company I go under. I'm actually officially a company now, so like I'm excited about that. So I'm giving back to my community. It's going to be $50 this month, but it's usually $25. So giving out a little bit extra. And then, of course, video games on Wednesdays, along with this live stream, obviously. Fridays is movie day. This Friday I'm reviewing Deadpool, so I'm super excited about that. And then every Sunday is live stream day, so I get on my PlayStation 4 and I play away.
And you make a great point. I am seeing Deadpool this Saturday, I believe. So,
Nice.
If anyone else is available from the TCX, we will, of course, be doing a live podcast on Wednesday. I think Deadpool would be a good one to talk about if anyone else is up for it. So, look forward to that. This podcast will be up next week on the 19th for the edited version. If you are just now tuning in and missed it, or you want to let someone else know, that'll be up on the TCX. On the Console Explosion YouTube website, or you can always go to consoleexplosion.com to get all the updates. We have a whole bunch of shows. Ian also does the weekly wrap-up. We have other things, different reviews, different streamers. So check us out on the consoleexplosion.com. To everyone who tuned in, thank you guys so much for listening and sharing your thoughts and asking the questions. Definitely appreciating it. Definitely appreciate, and I am still in the process of appreciating it, so I guess that is accurate. But you can find me on Facebook at The Philosopher, YouTube and Twitter at Just Philosopher. Of course, always on the consoleexplosion.com and on YouTube. Definitely make sure you like this video, what's on there, subscribe to us so you can always get the updates and prompts when we start streaming. Thank you guys so much. We will have this up next Friday, and then we'll have another podcast up this Friday from last week. I know it's a little bit confusing, but we are still working out the kinks and getting everything going. So thank you guys for supporting us. As always, I'm really appreciative. I've said it a bajillion times already. I'm just like tired and ready to go to bed and on pain pills, so don't mind me. But I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.